Welcome to FTC Team Scientific Touch 12830's tutorials for Fusion 360. My name is Shreya and today we'll be covering sketches, how to use them, and all the features in it. Let's get started. The first thing you'll want to do is pull up Fusion 360. You can do this by going to your applications and opening up the Fusion tab. So what you're going to do is, now that you have this pulled up, is we're going to close out of the data panel, which is this sidebar here. You can do this by clicking on the small 9 boxes, or some people call it the burnt waffle. So once you do that, your space is much bigger and it's easier for you to work. To enter the sketch workspace, you're going to either go to create and go to sketch, or you're going to click this icon here. If you want to move this to the top bar and it's not there yet, you can go here to the 3 dots and click pin to shortcuts. That way it'll move up here. Well, you can either do pin to shortcuts or pin to toolbar. So once you have that, click on create sketch and select the bottom plane. So there's 3 planes in Fusion 360, and depending on which one you create your sketch on, when you make that 2D sketch 3D, it'll be built off of a certain wall, let's say. So we're going to go over some of the features in sketch. Let's get started. The first one here is line. It's one of the most basic ones. It's in the name. You just click one point and you can click on the other. If you want to click on an exact point in between, you can either type it in like 100 millimeters, which you can change between millimeters and inches in the preferences as shown in last video. And once you type in that number, you can just click enter. If you want to create an arc, you click on the line feature, you hold on a point that's already there, and you can create an arc. This arc can go all the way down till here, but it cannot go further than this due to a different feature that you can use to create circles. So once you have that, you can all just click the last amount and you'll see that it's completely highlighted in blue. This is because once a shape is completely filled in and it's something that can be it's a complete 2D sketch that can be extruded, it'll be highlighted in blue. Because let's say you're working on something very small and you accidentally don't click it all the way, you want to be able to know that it's not fully selected when you zoom out. Because you can't exactly see that's not connected when you're zoomed out. But since that area is not blue, you can just zoom in and say, oh, okay, let me just fix that. And then it's blue. So what you can do to exit out of the line feature is you can either click the check mark or you can click right click and cancel. So once you have that, let's say you don't like this and you want to start over with something new. You can just drag from the top to the bottom, starting from the right to the left, which will help you select everything. Or let's say you only want to select one line, you can drag from the left to the right, which will only select lines that are fully covered. And since in this, the only line that's fully covered is that line, that's the only one it'll select. So when I delete it, that's the only one that'll be there. So then I can delete everything using the yellow feature. So the next one is 2-point rectangle and circle. 2-point rectangle is easy. You click on one point, you click on the other point, and it'll create a rectangle. The circle is the same, except you only have to select one point. You can select one and then just drag out, let's say I want a 160 millimeters, and then click enter. And I'll have my blue filled in circle. Another feature that we can go over is spline. Spline is something used to create curved shapes and something that might be more of a zigzag. So to do this, you click up and down and wherever what you want, and it'll help you create a curved shape. And it'll automatically curve it. Well, let's say you don't like that curve. If you select the shape, there'll be all these different green lines. And you can use that to adjust what kind of curve you want. Another feature we can talk about is mirror. So to do that, you have to have some sort of shape done. So let's create a really quick smiley face. I have my circle. I have 2 eyes. Then I'm going to use spline to create a smile. Well, that's not much of a smile, but that's okay. Alright, so I have my smile. So now, using mirror, I create a line right down the middle, and then I can select mirror, select the object I want to mirror, go to mirror line, select the mirror line, and it's done. I click OK, and I have my mirrored object. So after you've created your mirror image, you'll notice that there's this line in between. And that, with all the dots, shows that these two objects are connected. So if I edit one of these faces, it'll edit the other one as well. So let's say after I mirror, I want to change this into a more of a lopsided smile. So then, if I edit it on one, it's also editing it on the other, right? But let's say I don't want this. So then if I delete the line, I can make one of them crazy, but the other one won't change. So I'll have two different mirrored objects. Another tool that's really handy is sketch dimensions. Let's say for this circle, I said, oh, I don't know how big it is. So if I click on it and I drag it off to the side, it'll tell me that this circle is 78.86 millimeters. Let's say I want this to be a little bit smaller. Then I can type in 75 millimeters, click enter, and then it would have changed it and told me, okay, this is 75 millimeters. And that's a really handy feature, especially if you're making really, really detailed objects. Alright, let's move on to another feature. So I'm just going to delete all of this, but you can be building off of your design. So if I go to create, I can click on this text feature. And when I do that, it'll allow me to click on a point anywhere on the board, and I can go over here to text and type in hello world. Alright, you'll see over here that it's popping up, but let's say I want it really, really big. So you'll see over here that 10 is highlighted, and also over here it says the height is 10. So since it's highlighted, I can just go ahead and type in, let's say I forgot to change. I can go type over here and say 100 millimeters. I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. Alright, so now you can see that the height of my hello world is 100 millimeters tall. So I'm happy with that. But let's say I want it at a small angle. I can either go over here and type in, let's say I want a 90-degree rotation. I could go over here and type that in. Or I can come over here and just rotate it using this piece. So let's say I want it like this. But now it's going out of my board. And instead of panning, I want to move it. So I'm going to click on this, and I can move it to where I want it to be. You can also customize the font and how it looks by using bold, italics, and underline. These can add different sorts of impressions based on what you're designing. You can also change the font, but keep in mind all of these fonts will not work when you're making your shape 3D. Only some of them will, so you might want to do a little bit of research on a font before you use it. So I'm going to click OK, and it's there. But let's say I want to edit it. If I right-click on it, I can do either repeat text or edit text, which will pull up this block again and let me edit it. So now, one more thing that we can cover is conic curve. So conic curve allows you to select 1 point, 2 points, and 3 points, and the first and second point will be your end points, and the third point will be your midpoint. And using this, you can adjust how curved. This will be making it really pointy with only a really small curve. Or if you make this a value a lot smaller, you can go all the way to an almost flat line. But if you look at this value, it's not 0, which means there is a slight arc to it, just not too much to be visible. So you can change how much you want that and just click enter, which will allow you to do that. And you'll see that those 3 points show up. And depending on how much you edited it, it will change. So try making another conic curve, but this time start it and end it right on the same points, but then you make your midpoint slightly different. So then you'll have, this is more of a leaf shape. And if I, let's say, create a spline in the middle, I now have a leaf. Alright, so one last feature that we can cover in this is ellipse. So first we create 1 point, 2 points, and 3 points. So the first point will define the center, the second point the radius, and the third point how wide it's going to be. Let's show you that again. First point, second point, and depending on the third point, it'll determine the other radius. So this is mainly used for making like ovals. So if I want it skinnier, or I want it wider. Alright, so now that you have your shape, let's say you're completely done with it. What you're going to do is you're going to go over here to Finish Sketch and click Finish Sketch. That way, as you can see, all of the sketch tools are gone and there's different 3D tools. So you cannot edit your shape any further. But let's say I forgot that I wanted a box in it. I go down to the timeline down here, I click on the sketch, I right click on it, and I click Edit Sketch, which will bring me back to my workspace. Let's create that box. First, I'm just going to delete what we have here and create a box. After I have that, let's say I want my box to be rounded. That way it's softer at the corners. I'm going to go over here to Fillet, or it's in Modify if you can't find it, and I'm going to click on a corner, and it's automatically going to curve it. But I'm thinking that's a really, really small fillet or curve. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Yeah, that looks about what I want. But instead of doing it on both sides, I'm going to click this edge as well, and they're both going to be rounded. Keep in mind that it's pushing the corners in. So right now, it'll create that extra overhang. But if you do the fillet feature later, as shown in future videos, it can edit the 3D shape to round it without getting that extra overhang. Once you're done, click OK, and you have your rounded shape. Now, let's say off to the side, I create a circle. But now, I want this circle to be right underneath this piece. So what I'm going to do is go to Modify, Move Copy, and click my shape. As you can see, all these arrows pop up. This one will obviously move up and down, side to side. This one will let it rotate, and this one can drag it across. Also, there's this flat one, which will easily allow you to move it where you want. So once I move it where I want, or I can use point-to-point function to select one point, and then say I want it over here, it'll move it to that point, it'll snap it to that point, and I can click OK. And then I have my moved object. After that, click Finish Sketch, and you have your final 2D object. And then always remember to save your object wherever you want. Otherwise, you won't be able to find it later. Thank you for watching our video. If you're interested in more content like this, subscribe to our channel and watch more of our videos about Fusion 360 and how to use it, how to set up a free account, and everything about it.